Hi there, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Get to Know Us. This time it's with the doll. We just celebrated the 3-year anniversary of her album live last month. And just this past July 8th, we released a compilation called Mixed Box, which was made from a sample pack that she created for us, for folks to use to make tracks for this compilation that we just released. Again, that's Mixed Box and it's on our Bandcamp right now. So I am going to bring on the doll. I see that she's joined. I have to send in a request. If you can request. Awesome. Let's see if I can go. Hey, how are you doing?
Good, great.
Awesome. I know we have a big time difference between us. You're in New Zealand. It's what is it? What time is it there?
It's 11 a.m.
Yeah, it's 11 a.m. the next day, right? From
Hmm.
us. So
Yep.
yeah, you having a good morning?
Yep, pouring with rain here. But yep,
Yeah.
having a
I love your glasses.
thank
They're
you.
really cool. Yeah. So I always like asking folks how they first got interested and into music as a listener, if you had some kind of a favorite song or album that you got or a band that you got into, and most of the time it's usually when we're younger too. So yeah, whatever you wanted to share with us.
Um, well, I guess I grew up listening to my parents had a lot of cassettes that I think that my mum had taped them off records or something. I don't know, not off the radio. So they're like, and she'd make little things on the spine cutting out of newspapers or magazines to say the name of the band or whatever it is, and then it's her writing on the back. So I grew up listening to those, which consisted of things like ABBA and I think some Beatles and pretty just standard stuff. But also my mum was really into crooners, which so there was a lot of those like Tom Jones and Engelbert Humperdinck and Neil Diamond, New
Yeah.
Zealand John Rolls. But the thing that I always enjoyed is that my mum would just mock them. It'd be on and they'd be like crooning about something and she'd go, "Oh, poor Engelbert, oh, he's heartbroken, the poor guy," and just fully. So I think she enjoyed the beautiful singing, but also um, the humor of it. And so
Yeah. Yeah,
she
it's like
introduced me to humor and
melodramatic.
music. Yeah, 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 yeah. And
Yeah,
then
yeah, that's really
I
cool.
guess
And go ahead.
as I was going to say, as a young teenager, when I was about 11 or 12, we used to be really into Total Bogan stuff, which is like AC/DC and Metallica and I don't know, all of that kind of things, Led Zeppelin, and you wear black t-shirts and acid wash jeans and purple tie-dyed skirts and all that kind of thing, and have a mullet, and that was pretty cool when I was at intermediate school. Um,
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. Um, and how did you get into making music or being a performance artist then? Like, how did that come about for you?
um, it was when I was over teaching English in South Korea, and I started doing field recordings of things like all the crickets and things at night that were up the hill behind me, and of trucks driving around, and I didn't understand what they're saying half the time, and then I just sort of using Cool Edit made some mashup kind of stuff, um, and kind of not covers exactly, but bizarre versions of things, including crooning. One of them is multiple crooning songs on top of mashed together on top of the Hawaii Five-O, the old TV program soundtrack. So just ridiculousness, pretty much. And then from then I just started continuing to do more of that, and then I did some remix stuff of local Wellington, New Zealand artists, and then started getting more into noise and experimental. yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool. So when did you start performing out and doing your noise performances and performance pieces that you done in the past?
Uh, Only quite recently. I think my first performance was in the GIMP room in Seattle, and would have been, I think, like late 2015. It would have been. Is in my friend's basement pretty much, and there was some bands and playing down there. And I had a vintage blender for smoothie maker type thing, sort of from the 70s, and I was putting pencils and things in it and mashing them up and contact miking it and doing some vocals. And that went really well. People really liked it, so I did a bit more of it after that. I did
Yeah,
one
oh, that's
in
really
Brooklyn
interesting.
with
I
New
didn't
York.
realize that you had gotten into it, late, more recently, somewhat recently. Obviously, it's been many years now, but yeah, that's really cool though. Uh, so I guess let's talk about so you released live with us about 3 years ago. We
Mm-hmm.
celebrated the anniversary last month, and it's four different, I know, performances that you did. And I wanted to know if there was anything you wanted to share about that album. And everybody can, if they haven't checked it out, it's on our Bandcamp and also on the Dolls Bandcamp.
Yeah, that um, each performance, there's four performances, um, and each of them are totally different. Usually I come up with a concept for a performance and then, or a, I compose it and practice it at home and then I carry it out, and it's never exactly how you practiced it. Um, but one of them is called Sound Salon, and that was at Snails, which is in Palmerston North, in the old Snails. They've moved to a bigger venue now, and that at that time they had a whole lot of those vintage hair dryers in there, the ones that you put your head in, the purple things, whatever. And so I did a whole sound salon, and I had a vintage hair dryer on my head as well. It was blasting hot air at me, and I was miking that up, and yeah, so the concept came from there. And then another one was at the Stabbies etc. pillowcase showcase that Stefan put together for Chris Berry from Soft Abuse. And so I went for a nighttime theme where I was asleep and then I was woken up with a whole lot of alarm clocks and made a whole lot of noise and then went back to sleep pretty much. So yeah, each thing is site specific and kind of themed for the gig that it's at, really.
Yeah, that's very cool. That's very cool. Yeah, so everyone should check that out. And there's also a video of one of the performances from that tape release on our YouTube and imagine on your YouTube too, of Cheap
Mm-hmm.
Romance. So you can check that out. Um, so yeah, so let's also talk about this mixed box compilation that we just released. Anything that you want to tell us about that? It was we first had a sample pack that you had put together for us, and we put that out so that folks had, I don't remember if it was maybe a month and a half or 2 months or so to grab the sample pack and
Mm-hmm.
submit a track to us, using some of the samples. You didn't have to exclusively use the sample pack, but the point was like to use something from it to make your tracks. And yeah, anything you want to talk about as far as those samples that you put together for us and also the compilation itself.
The samples are from back from I think 2005 is the latest, oldest, and then just this year for the most recent. And I thought of the sample pack in terms of I looked at how people construct them normally, and they seem to have a folder for bass and drums and guitar and vocals and whatever. And so I chose four um, categories that I thought could work if you only wanted to use those sounds and nothing else. It could work in that way. So I created a drones category, which is sort of like the bass. You could build stuff on top of it. And then a skips and loops, which is short samples that could be looped or not looped, and lots of them are when records get stuck on the record player, and I just record that. And so that's what the sort of skips are. And there's some CD skipping on there and things like that as well that I've recorded. And then there's
Yeah.
vocals, and then there's a whole collection of sirens and bells, which I guess for me that was kind of like the hi-hats or something. And
Yeah.
I was really excited about all the different things that came out of it that people made,
Yeah.
and
Really
which
cool.
samples they used and how they used them. And some samples, like the video piracy, skipping CD in the, or I guess it's a DVD, it's a skipping DVD in a laptop. That seemed quite popular. People quite like video piracy, it seems. And dog snoring was popular, and some other
Yeah.
ones that weren't used at all. So that was really interesting, and I just love the variety.
Yeah, there's a huge variety, and that's out on our Bandcamp now, and the proceeds from that are supporting our work. We're a 501(c)(3) nonprofit now, and so we definitely need support to keep going, and so that's helping us there. And then I did want to ask you about your influences in general, like even if they're not musical, anything that you wanted to talk about. That you draw a lot of influence from, personally, or for your music or for your performances or creativity. And I know you do other creative things too. So if you wanted to talk
Mm.
about, I know you make things from recycled materials and things like that too. So anything that you want to, discuss in that area would be really cool.
I guess as far as art and recycling and all of that goes, my mother's a wood sculptor, and when I was growing up, she wasn't sculpting wood then, but she did repoussé, so copperwork and things like that, and she made all our clothes, and they would everything at home would be recycled or reused or made. Like I remember Christmas decorations made from plastic lids where she'd got like jar lids, thin ones, where she'd got like one and made it a round circle, and then she'd made a star, and then she'd put cotton on so that it would hang in between in the middle. I mean, it wasn't very sparkly; it was yellow and white or something, but lots of stuff she just made herself. And we never wasted food or any of that sort of rations mentality. She was brought up with a rations mentality because her parents are English, and yet they were in the World War II and that in rations. Um, so a lot of it comes from her, and just I did a lot of art when I was growing up. I was encouraged to, things like that. And so when I was a kid, and even when I was a kid and a teenager, I thought more of myself as a visual artist, or I wanted to be a writer or something. I didn't really do music at all. That came much later. Um, and I actually approach creating something that I'm composing. It's almost like doing a collage or doing art for me. I can see it, I can visualize it, and I can see what the sounds I want to make and the whole concept. So my mum was a big influence, and it's the other people I am very inspired by vocal artists like Tanya Tagak and Sinead O'Connor. Well, she's not a vocal artist, she's an amazing vocalist, but Audrey Chen, Yol, he's astounding. Um, just anyone who will do experimental things with their voice and push the boundaries. Charmaine Lee's really great. Um, and then also people with a great power and presence, like More Mother, someone like that who just gets up there and, they're fearless. Jeff Henderson, who's a Aotearoa New Zealand musician based in Auckland. He's a multi-instrumentalist, but one performance I saw by him, all of them are great. One that I just totally love was in a small hall, a community hall in the winter, and just the gas jets were going up high, and there was hardly anyone there in the audience, and he was playing a baritone saxophone with circular breathing for like 45 minutes without stopping, and you just sat there mesmerized. And it was like he was wrestling it. His whole body was kind of turning into it almost, and it was just the single breath, which blew my mind pretty much. So
Oh,
anything like that
wow.
inspires me.
Yeah, yeah. And you also make really cool like collages and things. Like you made us a collage that we made a sticker from for, like, I can't remember if it was for the Grimalkin and Friends compilation
Yeah, I
or
think
if
it
it was our
was.
sampler. I think it was the Grimalkin and Friends compilation. But yeah, and for the release, um, the live release that you did for us, you made some collages too on playing cards and sent
Mm.
them, and every person who got a tape got one of those cards, and they were really cool. Um, so yeah, anyway, I'm a fan of your artwork. Um, and I guess Yeah, is there anybody that you're listening to right now that you want people to know about? And I know that for those who don't know, you run dub tapes, which is
Hmm.
a DIY record label. So yeah, anything that you want to mention that in that regard would be really cool.
Yeah, last night, probably your morning, but last night our time, dub tapes. We just released um, a new tape by let me get the acronym right, MKWA, and it's called More Than One Slice, and it's a legendary New Zealand Aotearoa New Zealand tape in many ways. One being that it's made by Indra Neville from The Biscuits and Drop Zone and multiple other things, and she's a comics artist. She's an amazing person. What do you say, like a poly artist? I don't know, whatever you say. A Renaissance woman, something, and she made this originally as a one-off single in the late 90s. And there's a song called Slice of Heaven, which is from this animation film, A Dog's Tale. It's about a dog, a farming dog, sheepdog. And it's by Dave Dobbin and the Herbs, and it's called Slice of Heaven. And anyone would know it, I'd say, in this country. I think it came out in the 80s, maybe that must have been the 80s. And she had a record of it and did the live needle drop and then record and then pause and drop it again. Record, pause, record, and with the needle. And she made it was like a single, two sides of the same sample. So it's like a manually made sample. Um, that
Yeah.
was I believe it's been in G Frenzy's garage for, I don't know, 10 years or something, 20 years. And it was located recently. And
Oh
it
wow.
was put out digitally on Stabbies, but then I was like, she told me about this ages ago, and I said, if you ever find it, I've got to release it. So we finally did release that last night. So that's on dubbed tapes at Bandcamp. And you need to be pretty, it's quite hard going for some people, I'd say. Not for me. I find it really relaxing, but some people I think would might struggle with it.
I see. Yes, a little bit challenging, which some noise music and that kind of and performance art can be. Yeah, and for those of you who are watching and aren't aware, July 12th, which is for the United States, is tomorrow at evening at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If you're on the East Coast of the United States, we're having a label workshop and Q&A. It's kind of a for folks maybe who've been thinking about starting their own DIY label, and it's co-run and hosted by myself representing Grimalkin Records and Nadal representing dub tapes, and Anna in the Philippines representing the GSS label. And there is an RSVP form that you can fill out that's in the link tree in our bio if you want to come to the workshop. You don't have to attend in person. You can still get a recording of it if you RSVP and you can't make it because maybe, if you're in the UK, it's going to be like 12 or 1 a.m. And if you're in New Zealand, it's 11, right? 11 a.m.,
Yeah,
I think,
even
which is fine. But, if you're having to work or this or that, obviously it'd be hard for you to attend. So the RSVP form also allows you to submit questions that you want us to address in it in case you can't attend and you're just getting the recording. So check that out. Yeah, and let's talk a little bit about, so with the mutual aid is part of the work that Grimalkin does, and so most of our tape releases, we ask the artists to choose either a mutual aid or grassroots organization that has a significant, means something significant to the person or is local to them. And I know for your album that you did with us live, you chose the Aunties, I believe, in New Zealand.
yeah.
And I just wanted to see what you had to say and why you chose the Aunties, and maybe a little bit about what they do for those who may not be familiar.
Cool. Yeah, the Aunties is an organisation of started out quite small, and now there's more people involved. There's quite a big issue in New Zealand with domestic violence, and there isn't enough support from the government or, that sort of thing for it. And so the Aunties help women or men and children, help people in domestic abuse situations. So getting food or clothes or Christmas presents or anything pretty much, and helping people get out of situations that they're stuck in. And they always need more support, money, whatever you can give them. And we, with Chop Stevens and Brenda Dwayne, we had a band called Septithe, which is a barbecue doom band. And so doom light, I guess, kind of our songs are more like 5 minutes than 30 minutes. But for that, we tithe all the money to the Aunties. So if anyone downloads or buys our album, the money goes to the Aunties, because that was our idea of calling it Septithe. Sounds really bogan, but also it's like even if it's only a small amount,
Yeah, that's great. And I'll make sure to tag them. And I don't know, I think I mentioned to you, I'm working with a few interns now that are helping us with graphic design. And one of the things I'm hoping to do is do a better job at promoting some of the organizations that our music releases have supported. And I actually just got back a little graphic about the Aunties that I can share later today. Maybe I'll do that after this, just to connect with them, and so you can see a little bit about what they do and go follow them. And if they're on Instagram, I don't know if they're on Instagram,
I don't know,
but you could follow. You could definitely at least get the information and see how to find them online on their website, because they definitely have a website. Yeah, so that's really great.
I just thought of something I wanted to share with everyone. Behind me on the wall up here, these are all doodles done by Indra, who I was talking about before.
Oh, great.
In work meetings, and they're all done with pen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've got a wall full of them.
Oh, that's really cool.
I just realized that's how we can do that.
Didn't they submit a track too to the Mixbox? Yes.
Yep. The second track on Mixbox is a new type of music that Indra's just started doing.
That's great.
Based and things like that. And hopefully got another more that type of music coming out in dub tapes, hopefully later this year when she's
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, and so with Grimalkin, with doing some of these collaborative things with other artists like the doll, with the sample pack that she created with us, we're trying to find ways also to open the label up to folks maybe who've never made music before, or want to try to work with us in some capacity. And so the Mixed Box compilation, it does have a few artists that have released on Grimalkin before, but then I'd say more than half of it are either folks that the doll knows, and there might even be a few people there that was it a first time? I'm not sure if there were any first timers there, but we do encourage people to try things and try new things. So so talking about so we talked about the mutual aid work already. So I guess what I wanted to talk next about, which I always ask other folks, because part of the work that we're trying to do with Grimalkin too is create different systems and structures of support for artists, because the music industry at large, and even within DIY, there's a lot of problems and issues, and artists are always kind of at the bottom of all the power structures that exist within the music industry, and we're doing our best to work at creating these systems and making small changes so that hopefully at some point in the future we have a world where dedicated artists can make a living wage, because we are very far from that being a reality. And I'm not sure about what it's like in New Zealand, but here in the United States, our society in general does not value art and music very much. It's not seen as something important when it comes to things like grants and fundings. all the arts and culture organizations, there's far less funding for folks that are doing work like us than for other things. And there's sort of a sense of entitlement that, you know, things should just be free and given. And I don't think people really think too much about what our world would be like if you removed all art and music from it. It would be a pretty, it'd be a pretty dark, dreary world. And I really don't think people really understand how important it really is. And we also believe it really is a catalyst for change. So, and positive change. So I'm always interested in hearing from other folks what they think are some problems that are existing either locally where you live or within New Zealand, or it could just be more generally at large within the music industry or business, or it could just be like within DIY music, or just things that you think are an issue that you'd like to see changed. And of course, if you have anything positive to say about things you're seeing that are actually going well and people doing things differently, we love to hear about that too, because we probably want to connect with those folks. But yeah, whatever you'd like to say in that regard.
We have a similar issue here in Aotearoa where we do have a thing called Creative New Zealand, and you can apply for funding for film, music, art, you know, you can, but it's pretty, you need to be pretty good at grant writing or, you know, all that kind of stuff. So that's, or someone who can help you to do it, which, to get the money really. And it is, you know, it's good, it's there, it's great, it's there, but the amount of money that is put aside for rugby in this country or cricket compared to art is like, you know, it's laughable, really.
Sure.
And I think that like the All Blacks, the rugby team, the men rugby team, they get like, I don't know, the top players get $1 million a year or something. And I don't remember what they're called, but the lady All Blacks, whatever their name is, they'll have some name. They get like, I don't know, 50 grand a year or something. The top ones, you know, they're trying to get pay parity type thing, but so a lot of money and sponsorship and everything goes into sports.
I see.
And
while that's universal,
totally awesome, you can apply for funding. It's not very much, and so obviously I'd prefer if more money went into art than cricket.
Than cricket and rugby.
We don't really need more cricket. There's enough of it already. One game is too much for me, but. One thing that I would like to sort of see changed it is happening in some places in the sort of experimental DIY type scene is the whole thing of gigs starting at 11 o'clock at night and going on really late. It's kind of like if you have kids, if you have a job on a Saturday morning, if you have a disability, if you can't stay up late, if you have pain, if you have multiple things, you know, or you just, it's just quite, I mean, I just can't really be bothered. And there is a couple of organisations that I believe get some funding from Creative New Zealand to run. There's the Pyramid Club in Wellington and the Audio Foundation in Tamaki Makaurau, Auckland. And they generally have gigs that start at about 8 and finish by 11. And it's awesome. And they've managed to build up enough audience members who are interested in it and who will go along to those type of things, which is really cool. But I'd like more of that. And also because the non-funded by the government DIY things that like in warehouses or in the tops of buildings and things like that, there's generally no disabled access. There's people smoking next door, so I've got asthma, so I have a problem with that. I can't go there. If it was better funded, there'd be better venues and then more accessible for people to go to.
More accessibility, yes. Yeah. And I know it's a cost factor, but for venues where they don't really get a lot of return for it. But, you know, during the pandemic, several places were starting to do, you know, live streaming shows and things like that, which did help a lot for folks who might have disabilities or can't get out. And I'd love to see more of that happen. But kind of the way it was put to me by a venue owner who actually was doing live streaming, and it's at Fallout in Richmond, and we're actually going to live stream our our Grimalkin festival, because she's already has everything set up for it. But the problem with it, it does take a lot of extra time and another person
Yeah.
to run things, and so it costs more money, but it doesn't always bring a return to the club, and it doesn't, if people are at home, they're not spending money like in the club, they're not drinking or eating. And so, the way she put it is like, that's kind of like the reason why a lot of venues just haven't committed to it, because it does cost more time, more work, and the return isn't so great. But, it would be great if somehow there was funding made available for that, or people started to put it into their budget, either when they're applying for funding, or just trying to do a better job with accessibility in general. But yeah. But I guess bringing it back, to something more positive, I always like to sort of round up the interview with asking folks maybe to share something positive, either like, words of wisdom, or just goals or something hopeful that they're looking forward to in the future for themselves or for others that you might want to share with us.
I think just it's really difficult, and it feels very, like you're not getting anywhere. But I think even if you can make small changes, if small changes can be made, then things can only get better. So I sort of try and just work at staying positive, and hoping and putting energy into things that will get better. And that's about it. I think that's probably it.
Yeah, and you're
just
definitely
keep fighting.
Yeah, and you're definitely doing that too with dub tapes and everything. And just again, for those who are listening, we are having a label workshop Q&A. It's tomorrow, it's July 12th at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I believe that's 11 a.m. July 13th in New Zealand. In the UK, it's like midnight or 1 a.m. But you can RSVP. There's a form in our link tree in our bio where you can RSVP. Even if you cannot attend, if you RSVP, you'll get a recording. There's a guide in there that you can look at to see what we're covering, and an opportunity to also submit questions to us in advance of the workshop in case you can't attend, so that we can address them. And we're hoping that this is one of many that we'll be doing around this topic for folks maybe who've been thinking about starting a DIY label. It's with Dub Taste with the Doll, myself with Grimalkin Records, and Anna with the GSS in the Philippines. And all three of us, we all have different approaches to the work we do. Of course, Grimalkin's a nonprofit, so we're a collective too, so it's a little bit different, and the way the doll does things is completely different too, but they're all like really great in the way Anna does things. And so we're just kind of sharing kind of the way we do things now, kind of very basic things initially. And we kind of are hoping that folks will come and ask us some questions and help us figure out what you want to know more about, so that we could help maybe facilitate other folks doing similar things in their own communities. So yeah, we hope you'll join us. Again, that's in the link tree in our bio. And I really appreciate you coming on and talking to us.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, and I'm excited about tomorrow's workshop. And yeah, thank you again. And I'll talk to you real soon. I'll see you really soon.
Bye.
Okay, you take care. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. Bye.